up, but I always double check. Okay.
Oh no!
Yep.
Oh no! Let it make. What was it? Your phone?
Yeah, I was just double checking. Yeah, we're good.
I forgot to tell you that there was a phone interruption charge. No, I'm just joking.
$100.
Right out of the gate, I get a laugh. All right,
Yeah,
I think we'll just call it a night. I think that's it. We won't go any further than that.
we've checked all the boxes.
Yeah, I'm done. I got a laugh, so I'm happy, and that's all we need. Thank you very much, Leanne, for being here, and appreciate it. So is it Leanne? Is that how we say your name?
That is
Leanne Linsky. I like to
yes.
do all this prep as we're recording, just so that I'll remember for later. My name's Bob, and Leanne is here with me tonight. We're going to talk just a little bit about other things, but I think I'm going to touch upon plausible. I believe I'm saying that correctly.
You are.
With two Z's, plausible.com. But before we get to that, that's the tease. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's talk about you a little bit. So what we have in common is we're both from the Midwest.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes, I noticed that. That was the first thing I saw in your profile. I was like, oh, this is going to be fun.
So now you are from Chicago area,
Mm-hmm.
and you say Waukegan, so I guess it's okay for me to say that. So
Yeah, you can say that.
So now I'm not from Chicago. I'm actually from downstate Illinois. But Waukegan, where does that fit into the Chicagoland suburban landscape?
Yeah, so it's north of Chicago, between Chicago and Milwaukee. To give you an idea, it's next to Great Lake.
That's a pretty far run from Chicago to Milwaukee.
It's right next to Great Lakes Navy Base.
Okay.
Yep. So if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
And I went to Jack Benny Junior High. So if you know who Jack Benny is.
Oh, yeah. They're like,
yes.
Oh, Leanne. Like, oh, Rochester. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ray Bradbury is also from Waukegan, Illinois.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you be safe because Ray Bradbury programmed all the robots up there so they won't kill you.
That's right.
Robot, iRobot guy, right? So no, it was Isaac Asimov, wasn't it? Okay.
No, he Fahrenheit
451.
451. Thank you. Yeah.
So you can't. Yeah, he knows the temperature that paper burns at. So we're.
Yeah, and dandelion wine, I think. Yeah. So all of those good science fiction novels that predicted the future of exactly where we are today.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They predicted it almost to a T.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. We don't have any flying cars or.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
So you're in Southern Illinois?
So I'm actually from Central Illinois. Originally, I live in St. Louis right now.
Oh, I have family in the southern part of Illinois near St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. So St. Louis Metro is not quite as big as Chicagoland. We call it the St. Louis metro area, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you up there, you all call it Chicagoland, from what I recall.
Yeah.
I think you still do, but you're not there though now, are you?
No. I moved when I was 20, and I moved to Las Vegas, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a change of scenery.
Yeah, it was also a great place to go at the age of 20. So I transferred college and ended up at UNLV, which was fantastic. And I stayed in Vegas for almost 16 years. Well, 16 years.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll get to that too. So let's go back to Waukegan for a little bit. So you're a comedian, obviously, and you've founded this thing called Plausible, which I want to applaud you on because I was punching around on it, and it looks really, really nice and is very, very functional, which I cannot say about a lot of websites. So that's fantastic. It's very simple. So, for all the simple-minded people like myself, it makes it real easy for us to use it. So, so what do you think shaped you to be a comedian and obviously an entrepreneur at this point, from being born and living in Waukegan for about 20 years?
Yeah, well, I had to have a sense of humor. So actually, right? No, that my family is really funny. My parents are very witty, very fast on their feet. And both my mom and my dad are very funny people. And my brothers are 7 and 8 years older than me, and they're hilarious. And so here I come, and it's like, yeah, I kind of have to. I have to fit in with my family. So yeah,
keep up.
Yeah, definitely, right? And my parents had me telling jokes at a very young age, and like, look at this party trick. I'm like, Leanne, tell this joke.
So give me the 7-year-old Leanne joke. You're 7 years old. Your parents say, tell Uncle, Billy a joke. What is it?
Those were really probably my dad's jokes. So I probably should have been telling them as an 8-year-old. Yeah. So no, they were, and I did love riddles. I'm a big fan. I was a big fan of riddles. Mm-hmm. So I had a book of riddles, which I loved it. I read it so many times, like I memorized them. So like a riddle that I loved to do was, what goes up a chimney down, but can't go down a chimney up?
Goes up a chimney down, but can't go down a chimney up.
Mm-hmm.
Up a chimney down.
You want a clue?
Yeah, give me a clue. I'm not good at riddles, so go
Clue ahead. Is I live in Seattle now, so it rains a lot. It's an umbrella.
Oh, an umbrella. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I was thinking maybe, but then I thought, what would you stick an umbrella up a chimney for? But
I have no idea.
I'm like, what's going on in your household where they're just cramming umbrellas up chimneys? I don't know.
Right? I don't know.
This is some kind of rite of passage. Your brothers are like, oh, Leanne, you got to stick the umbrella up the chimney. Can't get it back down, I bet.
These are thoughts that kept me awake at night. Also, how many redheaded men are born in Kansas?
Are born in Kansas. How many redheaded men are born in Kansas?
Yeah.
I don't know, Leanne.
None. Only babies.
Oh my gosh. That's one of those, if your uncle crashed the plane things or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you crashed on the border of 2 counties or something, where would you be buried or something like that? I can't remember what that joke was, but anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So riddles is kind of your thing then.
It was back then, but they stuck with me. I remember a bunch of them from there. Like, what happens to little girls who eat bullets?
Lead poisoning?
Their hair grows out in bangs.
Oh my gosh.
I can go for days. I think you have the whole book memorized, so you better stop.
Gosh.
Yeah.
This is hilarious. Okay.
Yeah.
Bangs. I'm terrible at these things. Gosh, now I feel bad. I should get
one
of them, but So you're riddling it up there in Waukegan, and you mentioned you went to Jack Benny High School. I didn't realize Jack Benny was from Waukegan.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, it was a middle school. It was a junior high, and we were the 39ers. Yeah, because Jack Benny was never a day older.
How old? That's when he was popular.
Yeah. I think they renamed it.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think that there'd be a lot of people who know who Jack Benny is too much, right?
No.
Did you know who Jack Benny was other than going there? Would you have ever encountered Jack Benny?
Oh yeah, because my parents knew all of the Jack Benny. It was a thing. Like everybody talked about that. My parents actually, my mom comes from a family of 9 kids, and they were on a radio show way back in the day when they were all kids, and they had a 78 record made of their time on the radio. The station gave their family a recording of it that was pressed onto vinyl. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it what do you remember what station it was up in there? WGN or WLS or
I don't know if it was I don't remember what station. That's a great question. I don't know if it was WLS. I think it was a very local station at the time. I'm gonna have to ask my mom now what station, because we used to. I remember as a kid, I'd always pull that out and listen to it on the record player.
It'd be WAUK for Waukegan.
Yeah, maybe.
That's fascinating. So I guess then you got it naturally how people, because your family was kind of, into those kind of things. So they were outgoing people and
Yeah.
fun people. Did they do anything like that once you were born, or was that just kind of, the past, and we got to be a family people now, even though we're jokey and everything, we can't perform or anything?
My mom's family was on the radio because my grandmother won something and they got invited in, and then they got, I don't know, they got some prizes like free groceries or something. So it was only like a one-time thing, and it was a big deal because 9 kids and the parents showing up at a radio station was they're like, what is happening here?
So your grandparents had 9 children?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I guess you'd have to be funny and all that because nobody pay attention to you otherwise.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise they were just complaining.
My mom's family has a hilarious sense of humor. They're always playing practical jokes on each other, and my aunts and uncles.
So then whenever now you said you moved when you were 20. So did you go to school after high school for a while in Waukegan area? And then move out to Las Vegas?
I did. I went to community college for my first 2 years and got my associate's degree. So I went to College of Lake County, CLC.
I went to community college as well. Thank you very much. I got my that's the smart money, goes to community college, folks.
It is. It really is. And it's because first I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up at that age. I had no idea. And all of those classes in those first 2 years, why would we pay those big dollars? That's the same classes. Yeah.
You can pay, the crazy Uncle Earl to teach you for about $20 and still get the credits. As opposed to paying top dollar for, some Rhodes Scholar or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was always a fan of the show Community because, it was funny, obviously, right? But because people were going to community college. I'm like, I remember. That was kind of, not that we did those kooky things where we do paintball and everything, but that was community college, which was a huge swath of people. Did you have that same kind of experience?
You mean a wide variety of people, or?
Yeah, you'd have older people, younger people. Yeah. It wasn't a typical college experience.
No. I really liked it. I also worked during that time, so I was able to hold a job, and then I stacked all my classes on certain days of the week so I could continue working through school. And I did like it because there were older people with more experience who were able to put things in better context. And I met all kinds of interesting people doing that. It was really cool.
What was your job then? You want to?
I worked for Ma Bell. I worked for Illinois Bell Telephone Company.
Oh, well, what did you do for them?
So I started in high school. It was funny because I got the job, and I worked in I think the first summer there. I worked just a summer, and I worked for as an admin assistant to the manager in this big office where they took all of the 611 repair calls. And then they had, in the back, they had the dispatchers for various special services, and call Julie before you dig, where they locate all the cables. So cable locator. So there's this big office of, I don't know, 50 some people, 60 people in it with a low cube. So you could stand up and see everybody.
The gophers in the cube farm. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that. And this is way back in the 80s. So, we used carbon paper for things. All of that.
You had the old mimeograph machine going there.
Right? Yeah. I did that. And then I think a couple of the summers I did 611 repair where I'd answer the phone and people would be like, hey, I have static on my line. I need help. And it'd be like, what? Your line's clear.
And then you don't. Call back later.
Right? Or what? I can't hear you.
Did you ever tell anybody to dig where they weren't supposed to dig just to cause trouble? You're like, you could dig there.
No, that would just create an outage and tons of calls. So no, I had so much fun because I did sit back by the the dispatchers for the Julie calls,
Mhm.
and they were hilarious. They were always playing pranks on people, and I just sat there and laughed all day.
Oh
I
my
think back
gosh.
to that time, it was just like, did anybody work? I think we got things done, but we had so much fun, and it was these 2 older gentlemen, Clary and Ed, and they sat there, and, if the manager came by, they had headsets on like this connected to their
Mhm.
phones, and they'd pretend they were on call so the manager would keep walking and not talk to them. Stuff
So
like
they
that.
were faking everybody out. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're busy here. Can't talk.
Yeah, and then they
This
had this
this
little
guy's digging up his yard everywhere. We're trying to stop him."
yeah. They had this little sponge, like little doll or something on the thing, and he's dipped it in ink. And then like one of the other managers would come by and he goes, this guy, he always picks up everything on my desk and touches it. So he dipped it in ink so that the guy, when he had it, his hands were full of ink afterward. Be
Oh
like,
my
that'll
god.
teach him.
Oh my god. Yeah. What are you handling all my desk utensils here?
Yeah.
My
Hmm.
stapler, right? So you do a whole office space takeoff there. My stapler. Yeah, my stapler. Yeah. That sounds fun. So then you're working for Ma Bell. You're going to school, and then you graduate and you get an associate's in.
I got associates in business administration.
Really?
Hmm.
So this is fascinating because you're doing other things, but so business administration. You're like, I'm going to get a business administration degree, and then I'm going to go on to.
UNLV and get my business management degree.
This is not the if you were to tell me to write a movie about somebody who is involved in comedy, those two things would not be in the script anywhere. Yeah, I'm going to go
No.
ahead and get my business administration degree, and then I'm going to go on and
Yeah.
get my business management degree, and then sky's the limit for comedy.
Right. And there was all this other stuff that had to happen before I even started doing comedy.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah.
you you had your Statler and Waldorf of Ma Bell up there in Waukegan,
Yeah.
taking care of you, and you head over to UNLV. Now, why did you pick? I mean, were you just trying to get away at this point? You didn't want all those
No,
9 aunts and uncles that you had to be bothering you.
no, honestly, I ended up going to UNLV because so I was first generation to go to college in my dad's family.
Mm-hmm.
And um I never anticipated going to college, to be honest with you. I was always a good student, but I didn't know people who went to college and I didn't have family members who went to college. So therefore, why would I go to college? Like I don't whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it, yeah.
They
So
all were doing gigs on the radio to get free groceries. Why work?
right? I mean, come on. So do Collins. So yeah, so I ended up in high school. I got a bit of a scholarship, and that was a really pleasant surprise. I mean, I used to sit in the basement on a typewriter and type all my applications, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get any of these things. But I'd spend hours and hours, and I actually got a scholarship, which helped, and to go to community college, and then I did all right in community college. My parents were like, okay, you're doing well. Do you want to continue? And I was like, sure, but I don't even know where to go. And I looked at schools in Illinois and everything, but we couldn't afford it. They were very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base out in Vegas. And he said,
Oh,
I think
okay.
there's a school out here. Do you want me to go by and pick up a catalog? Again, this is before the internet.
Right,
So,
that's right.
so,
Catalog.
so he had to go to drive over to the school and he picked up a catalog
Let me
for me.
mail you a catalog from the UNLV. See if you like
He
it.
did. He
Mhm.
did, and he mailed it to me, and we looked, and we're like, "Whoa, we could make this work." And I got accepted, and yeah, and my mom even went back and got a job to help pay for it, and you know, um, yeah. So I was very lucky
So
to do that.
did you stay with your brother then, or how did that work out?
No, I ended up living in the dorm,
Oh,
and
okay. So
yeah,
he was like, I'll get you the catalog, but that's it. I'm not going to do
yeah, no,
anything else to help you.
no, he lived by the base, which was far away from
Oh,
it's
okay.
quite a distance from the school, so that would have been really challenging. So I lived in Tonopah Hall, which was like the original dorm on campus, right across from Beam Hall. Um, And yeah, so I don't know. People might know that because there was recently an incident at the university, but it all took place right there.
Oddly enough, it had to do with office stationery and ink.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody left ink and everything on their desk. No, it was a really good experience. UNLV is great, and they have a large population of first generation students there.
Really, I wouldn't have even thought that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I guess. I mean, maybe at some point they weren't as well known, and they're like, yeah, just bring us anybody, especially anybody from the Midwest.
Yeah, right.
They've never been to a desert. They can come out here and go to school.
Yeah,
that's fascinating. So
Mm-hmm.
you obviously you graduated with your degree from UNLV, or did you not?
I did. I graduated at UNLV. Yep, I got my degree in business management, and during that time, because I had gone even in the years in between my 2 years at UNLV, I went home and worked at Illinois Bell during the summer. And so the Illinois Bell said, "Hey, you can come back and continue working here. And those 5 years you've worked here are, seniority already." And I was like, "Oh, but I'm in Vegas." I'll work for Central Telephone in Vegas. At the time it was Central Telephone. So I started the hiring process at Central Telephone, and they went on a hiring freeze because they were being acquired by Sprint. And Sprint, so in one of the interviews, they're like, "Hey, we've got these new things called mobile phones, and we're thinking of selling them in kiosk out in, like strip mall parking lots." And I was like, "What? Okay." But then they had this hiring freeze, so I didn't get hired. No one got hired. And I got a accounts payable job for a home builder.
Oh, I thought we were going to spin off into the whole cell phone industry for a second there. With all that. You're like, come see Leanne for all your burner needs.
Right? Yeah.
So it'd be like a Better Call Saul burner telephone sales lady.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly who I would have been. No.
Wow, no, that's interesting. But so you were there, almost there for the kind of the advent of cell phone proliferation, if I can even get that out of my mouth.
Yep.
That's interesting. So, so then you've got your degree, and then you went into comedy, right?
No, I worked for this. I worked for a home builder for like a year, and then several of my friends in the accounting department were moving over to another home builder, which was a national Fortune 500 company. And they're like, "Hey, they're coming into the Las Vegas market. We're moving
over
there.
They got cell phones over here. You might want."
Yeah, and they said, "Come on over, Leanne." So I started working for Pulte Home Corporation, and I started there, and I stayed there for almost 13 years.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that's like a career right there. 13 years. Most people can't even make it 2 or 3.
I know. I thought I was going to retire from there, but no.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you? What happened?
Because they laid me off. We know what happened to the house.
Those bastards. Those.
But here's what
she gives you 13 good years of assisting or whatever you were doing and not going to sell cell phones, and even though she could have pocketed a hefty commission, and then you get laid off.
Yeah,
it's like that's the American story right there. Everybody says the American story. No, you get a house and a family. No, you get a job, have it for a long time, and then they lay you off. That's the American.
Yeah, story. And then you're like, now what? But during that time is when I started comedy.
Oh, okay.
During my
time
at that
maybe
job.
That's why you got laid off. They're like number 1 on the list.
Well, it's funny. I was doing a lot of public speaking and stuff during my time there. And so that's when I went back.
Why did you have to do public speaking? What was the catalyst for that?
Well, no matter what my job title was, I was in charge of planning all the quarterly meetings and a lot of the events. And so I would be in front of groups of hundreds of people speaking. And I was like, oh, I want to maybe put together a monologue for one of my events. And so I took a comedy writing class at UNLV. That was a continuing ed class. And then after that, one of my coworkers was like, hey, the Second City has a training center out here now. And I was like, they do? Really? And he was like, yeah, they did. They actually had another show that they were doing at one of the theaters in the Flamingo. And so they opened their training center out there. And so I signed up for my first improv class, and I took all of them that they offered, and I think up to 3 times some of them. And that,
they're like, we got her hooked. Keep doing these classes. We got Leanne. Leanne, are you up for this one again? It's only another $50. You're good with that, aren't you?
$50. I wish. They're like $300.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I put so much money into
$300. Seriously, for what class?
For like a series, like, so it'd be like a number of weeks or something. Yeah.
Was there any one of your teachers was anyone that we might recognize at this point?
Yeah. One of my comedy writing teachers wrote for SNL for a while. Kay Cannon produced and wrote the Pitch Perfect movies and the latest Cinderella movies. She wrote for 30 Rock, New Girl, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Oh, I love 30 Rock. Come on.
Yeah. So there are a lot of good people. Very funny people. Yeah.
That's interesting. How wild. And so back then she was like, yeah, I'm working for $300 because Leanne's the only one that shows up for the class. But it's a living.
She was actually really encouraging. I thought she was a fantastic instructor. I learned so much from her. And she, when I was like, I really love doing improv. She's like, if you have the opportunity to really learn, this is something you want to do, go do an intensive, like several weeks, either in New York at Upright Citizens Brigade, known as UCB, or Chicago, IO Chicago, which formerly was called Improv Olympic, but they had to change the name. So it's IO Chicago. And so eventually I ended up doing both. Yeah.
Oh, why did they have to change the name? You got me curious now.
I think Olympics is.
Oh, the Olympic Committee.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, these people! I swear. That's our. What do they call it? That's our. I'm blanking on the term now. What do they call it? Intellectual property Olympics.
Yes, trademark.
Trademark, yeah. How terrible. So you're doing the classes at UNLV and having a good time. And when did you make the journey to New York? Or did you do that while you were still working before the bastards laid you off?
So I was working. So I only took the one class at UNLV, and then I did all the classes at Second City. And then while I was working at that company, I had lots of vacation time, which was cool. So I took a couple weeks and I went and did an intensive in New York. And I was like, oh, New York. I love New York. Such a fan. And I came back and I'm like, if I didn't have all these other great things in my life, like a job and a house and those things, I would move to New York. And then fast forward to where I get laid off. My friend, and also during that time, why I worked for that company, I would drive to LA and take improv classes on the weekends and drive back.
That's like 5 hours though, isn't it, from Las Vegas?
Yes. It's like 4 or 5 hours. Yep. Each way. And so I would do that. And then, so I was like all in, right? And I had this great job and I loved it. And then I got laid off. And so then as it neared my end date, I had a friend that I had met in New York who called me one afternoon. He's like, hey, I'm going to move to New York this summer and I'm getting a sublet. And I was like, oh, that's great. And he's like, I'd like a roommate. Would you like to move to New York and share it? And I was like, I'll think about it. And he's like, you have 1 hour. I was like, what? And he's like, you have 1 hour. Because like, I can't, in New York, finding a place to live is like,
I gotta lock somebody in or else it's gone, right? So.
Yeah. So I took a walk. I came back. I called and I said, I'm in. And a month later, I packed 2 suitcases and moved to New York City.
That's wild. So I guess at this point, you didn't have like a lot of, you weren't like married or attached to somebody to where you're living together and all that kind of stuff. To where you're like, I can't go to New York because I'll leave, Timmy or whatever.
Well, between me graduating college and me getting laid off, in that time I'd been married and divorced twice. So there was no money. It was something I did during the 90s. So.
You skimmed that one. do the yada yada. I graduated, yada yada, had two divorces, and went to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for my third in New York at the Sublet.
No. No, I was totally all in on comedy and performing and learning as much as I possibly could. Yeah.
So at this early stage, what would you say, what was the attraction for you that said, this is really something that I want to do that early on when you were doing your classes and so forth? What was the tipping point? You're like, this is all fun. I like doing it. I love giving $300 all the time to Second City. But what was it that you said, this is something I must do?
I couldn't imagine me not doing it, whether I had the job or not. And I also found it challenging, but fun at the same time. It's not easy. Honestly, it's not. Doing improv, like, there is so much to learn. Writing comedy is a skill set. I'm just fascinated by the process, and it's so much fun because every time I'd practice or go to class, we spend so much of that time laughing. Mm-hmm. Like, how can I not want to do something that brings so much joy? It's like being 5 again and letting your imagination run and going outside to play.
You're like, wait, this was a 3-hour class, and we only actually did 35 minutes of work. Hold on a second. We're just laughing the whole time.
No, we worked the whole time. But people are, it's just fun. It's like, how often do you get to go somewhere and pretend to be somebody else and, say silly things and, just have permission to play.
Oh, yeah. Well, at your home, I guess. That's what you mentioned before, but... in Waukegan.
Yeah. So
but I don't know. It's not quite the same. So I guess you like the challenge of doing it. As far as like going through the motions and the kind of the process of it. I was wondering if it was like when you got on stage you liked it, when you did this, but it sounds just like it's like a whole process thing. It'd be like some people like to cook and then they cook things and they don't eat them.
Right.
Because they don't want to. It's not that they don't need to eat anything; they just like the process of cooking.
Yeah, well, it's like that with acting, right? As actors, I learned that we spent most of our time practicing, memorizing lines, rehearsing, going to classes, and then the icing on the cake is that you get to put it all together and perform. But that's, a small percent of your time as an actor. Everything else is auditioning and preparing and doing all the other things that are part of that journey. And you really have to love it if you're going to do it, because that's what you spend most of your time doing. Yeah.
If you don't love it, it's going to be pretty boring.
You're going to be frustrated, but waiting for that fame to come if you're not willing to put in all the other work and enjoy that too.
So were you acting at this time too when you were in Las Vegas? Were you trying to get acting gigs as well as doing the thing?
I was. Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was trying. Yeah, I was trying different things. I went out to New York, I think, again, and got like a extra role in this independent film. It was so fun. It was just such a fun experience. I don't even think you could see my face in it, but being on set and being around other actors who are taking it all very seriously was such a cool experience. Like, it is just like, what is my life right now? This is so fun. Yeah.
So you got laid off. So how did you support yourself in the meantime? I mean, were you getting enough paid gigs to do that, or was there? I mean, tell me the terrible struggles.
No, like, there's not, like, so at that stage, definitely not. I don't think there was ever a time where my comedy necessarily supported me. It kind of supplemented other means. So I always would have a day job, or when I got to New York, after a while, I went out and got a job. I wanted to do the quintessential, like, wait tables. What was that like? That was horrible, but I think everybody should wait tables once in their life. I think it is very humble.
Jobs make you humble.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have to do a service job for any length of time, then you aren't quite such a terrible customer.
Yeah. It's true. It's really true. It
Yeah.
it gives you a whole lot of different appreciation for people who work in the service industry, honestly. But I did it for a while. I don't know. I wanted to try all the different things and have a full-on experience. And um so I did, and eventually I got like an office job again and things like that. And yeah, and it was
Selling
great.
cell phones, perhaps?
No, 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 no. I worked let's see. I was an office manager at a theater for a year, and I ended up going back to that theater and doing their bookkeeping a couple years later. I
Like a Broadway type, off Broadway theater
at an
or
improv theater.
oh, an
Yeah.
improv theater. Okay.
Mhm.
Well,
I
then
worked
you're
for Meg.
close. Then you're close to
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I worked at a really good improv theater, Magnet Theater, and then so I did that. I worked there at 2 different times, and then I also worked, let me think. We're digging back in here, my memory vault. I did things. Oh, I worked for a temp agency,
Oh, that's
which was
got to be the
actually
worst, don't you think?
no.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
it was so cool because it's kind of like try before you buy. And I actually, because of my background and my experience, and everything, I actually worked for a publishing company for a while through that temp agency
Mhm.
and did market research, which was really cool because I had done market research before for the home builder. And
Okay.
um, so that was really cool. I worked with some really nice people there. And that was a long time that I worked, like, I don't know, over a year. I don't know. It was a long time and for me. And then I also worked for an investment bank for a couple years.
Hmm.
I worked as a director of marketing for a voiceover studio for 5
Oh my
years. I
gosh,
actually,
really?
yeah, I
Did
did
you
it.
get did you use your influence to get gigs then? You're like, "Oh, wait, we don't need to hire anybody else. I could be a lumberjack. Come on."
No, because the voiceover studio, like, that's a whole thing in itself. I did all the I was a director of marketing, so I stayed out of the voiceover part of it. I mean,
Oh,
I could have
really?
taken classes and stuff if I wanted, but I was like, "That's all," like, I'm so invested into comedy and the other parts, I did
Mhm.
to go off and do this other thing, I'm like, "No, I'm good." Yeah.
So you didn't want to do the voice? I can't believe it. Can't want
No.
to do the voiceover? Goodness gracious! I thought to me they kind of go hand in hand a little bit. I would think because it is still performance, but I suppose they probably want you to say what's in the script.
Well,
A lot
sometimes
of
they
the
want you to
time.
improvise, but voiceover is a skill.
Hmm.
Like, doing audible, like, audiobooks and things, I don't know. I listen to a lot of audiobooks now,
Hmm.
and if the narration is not a professional voiceover person, there's a you like, I can tell. I'm like, "Oh, please stop." The person, especially authors who read their own books, I'm like, "You're killing me." Don't
Chapter
do that.
5: The
Yeah,
Beach Ball of Death.
it's
I was
like, "Oh,
standing
please."
on the beach in Santa Monica.
Yeah. But
Okay.
good voiceover artist will do, like, it just makes it so easy to listen to
Would
and
you
so
say
fun.
that one of those things is the fact that they kind of have a kind of a rhythm and a cadence that they use to do all that? Or
Yeah,
what do you think that is? What do you think the kind of key to it is?
well, they've practiced, so they know how to take the words off the page so it doesn't sound like someone's just reading it. Like, I hear people read it, and then it's, like, not even like, they're not even emphasizing the right words in the sentence, and then they're like, "Oh, that was the end of the sentence," and then you just go on to the next sentence. But a voiceover artist will kind of, I don't know, they're just a difference, like, makes it easy listening. Yeah.
And people slam doors, and I don't know if you hear the slamming the door right here.
Um,
That's okay. It's food time for the cats, so the cats
oh,
got to get
okay.
fed around here.
I don't know
The
why I turned and looked at my door 'cause there's not even a door behind me.
So, well, that's interesting though. So then, but you're still doing comedy and so forth. What would you say you did as far as in the comedy vein while you were in New York? What was your kind of focus? What did you do more of?
So it started out, I was super focused on improv and sketch comedy, and I started an open mic for sketch comedy, which eventually morphed into stand-up open mic. And I ran that open mic for 7.5 years. And I started during that time, I wrote my one-woman show. I started auditioning for plays and things like that. So I did a few plays in theater, and I worked with I freelanced with a few agents. I got some commercials, and I did that one woman show, and I premiered it in New York, took it to DC and Delaware, back to New York. So that was like a period of over a year. But I always ran this open mic, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And so after I finished my one woman show, I started actually pursuing stand up outside of anything I did in my mic. And it's funny because I had been doing my mic for years with all these stand-ups, and I was like, nah, and then I'm like, I'm gonna start doing stand-up. And so then I started getting more involved in that and getting booked in shows. And then I started producing, in addition to my open mic, I started producing weekly shows, stand-up comedy shows. So like my last year in New York, I produced 42 shows. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So when you did the one woman show and so forth, I mean, I hate to ask the financial question, but did it cost you, or did you break even, or what was the?
Oh, no,
it totally cost. It made you a millionaire, and so then you started Plausible?
No, it totally, all of this stuff cost me probably more than I ever made. Yeah, that cost, because you have to pay all your applications to festivals. You have to pay for a tech person to run the booth for sound and lights at the theater. Have to pay a director. Have to pay a stage manager.
Well, it's your show. What do you direct yourself? You don't have to have a director.
No. Oh my gosh, that's worse. Like, no, I do not. I don't think anybody should direct them. I don't know. Maybe people do it and they're good. But
hey, Clint Eastwood does it in the movies.
Yeah, he's Clint Eastwood. But I prefer to have a director on the outside to have another perspective, and bring ideas to the table that maybe I hadn't considered before. And she was great. I'm so glad I did that.
So, who did you marry in New York and divorce during that time?
Nobody.
Okay,
I got away. Yeah. I got away.
I'm just teasing you. That was
no, that's question. Okay. It's a valid question. It wasn't until I got to California that happened. Okay. But I'm still married, and he is the keeper. He is the winner.
Oh, good. So it all worked out. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
So take us there. Take us to California.
Sure. So eventually in 2014, end of 2014, very end, right at 2015, I moved to California. And there I started continuing to produce my show, and did that in Long Beach, California. I ended up in Long Beach, which is too far from LA. And someone told me that it wasn't. And boy, was I wrong. So that's why I was like spending all this time on the freeway. I'm like, this is crazy. What am I doing? How do I?
Freeway out there, don't you?
Oh, it was terrible. It's like, I'm going to the grocery store. I'll be back in 3 days, So,
I got my Camelback thing for some water.
Right?
Yeah.
Pack up a
some snacks. Yeah. I got my little camping stove. I'll be able to make some hot dogs.
So true. Yeah. So that's why I started doing things online, is because it was really hard geographically to get around and do all the things that I was accustomed to doing in New York. Mm-hmm. So I was like, how do I bridge this gap? How do I make this work? And I don't believe we can replace in-person experiences. I think there's a magic to them, and it's necessary as humans that we have them. But I do believe we can make the online experience for online live entertainment better. So I started experimenting with like all the existing technologies, mm-hmm. and seeing what it was like to run a mic on Zoom and do things like that. And so this was before COVID, and August
2015 or so?
Well, in 2015, I was like, I'm going to use Skype. And people were like, Skype? And we kind of chuckled about that idea. And I was like, yeah, maybe not. And I was using Zoom because I was still working for that voiceover studio in New York, working remotely from LA or California. Cool. And I was using Zoom a lot. And I'm like, this would probably work. And And then life happened. I started a podcast and did those things. And then eventually that idea was still rolling around back there. So in August 2019, I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to put it out there. And people were like, hey, this is really cool. I can meet people I wouldn't otherwise meet because we're on the internet, right? And then COVID happened. So everybody was doing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Stupid COVID.
But, right. But during that time, I was like, this is great. But but the existing technologies weren't designed for entertainment. So I'm like, how do I fix those problems? How do I make it better for us? So that's when I went back to school again. And I went to University of California, Irvine, and got my master's in innovation and entrepreneurship.
Oh my, well, this is interesting because you've had this whole business trajectory on your what I would call formal education. Not that Second City is not formal, but and then this underlying current for your continued education in comedy stuff. That's interesting. So they've always been kind of going together. It sounds like, at least in your adult life. And so they're coming together in plausible. I'm guessing. I'm projecting my thoughts here, saying in the future, plausible happens, right?
That's exactly what happened. So I was doing this online open mic, and this was my idea when I went into the program at school. And I was like, how do I scale this so I can help a lot of people? And how do I make this comedy venue accessible to people no matter where they are in the world, or maybe persons with disabilities or people with autoimmune issues where they can't go out for whatever reason, right?
Yeah. They just don't want to. They just want to stay home. Yeah, I don't want to go out.
mean,
well, who wants to do that?
I don't, not anymore.
Exactly.
So I don't. I do everything here, and it's so fun. And so, yeah, I did that. And afterward, I got accepted into an incubator program, which is for startups, thinking like an incubator for chickens, right? It's before.
But they're like, you stay at home because we don't want you in the incubator. We want to incubate you at home. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Put you under a warm light until your idea is fully hatched.
Hatched, right.
Yeah. And then from there, I got into a startup accelerator, which was super helpful. It came with funding, and I was able to go out then and hire people to build my big dream. And that's what I did. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you hired well, because I was poking around, and it's a really dynamite website as far as usability. I mean, I haven't been on there a lot, but just since we set this up, I poked around, and I'm like, wow, this is nice and easy. I will tell you my favorite feature.
Okay.
Is block user. I'm like, what the heck? Oh no, block fans. That's what it is.
Did you sign up as a comedian?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I signed up as a comedian. I'm like, blocked fans. I'm like, wow. I mean, you're thinking. That's forward. It's positive forward thinking right there. To think, number one, you're going to have fans, and then number two, you're going to have some that are going to be so annoying that you got to block them.
Yeah.
I would hope for annoying fans. I would dream to have. Have you ever seen Flight of the Conchords?
Yeah.
Kristen Shaw is the annoying fan.
Oh my gosh, she's so funny.
Yes, I'm like, boy, if only if that would be a dream fan that I could block her, and then and then she'd beg me to unblock her. I could see the whole scenario.
She used to run a show called Hot Tub. I forgot what it was, something Hot Tub, in New York that I would go see at the Pit, the People's Improv Theater. She's hilarious.
Oh yeah, she's very funny.
Yeah.
So plausible gives shut-ins. No, I'm just joking. It gives shut-ins an opportunity to do stand-up comedy when they can sit down.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
They can.
That should probably not be your tagline. We're for the shut-ins who are funny. But yeah, that's interesting. So if you were to say who should, I mean, now I've kind of thrown a wrench in it because I joined. So now you're like, well, if he can join, we can take anybody, I guess. But who would you say? Who would you encourage? You'd say, if this is your thoughts, you should join this. What's your thoughts on that? Who should be the people? Who are the people you're trying to reach out and get them to join?
I'd say any comedian, all levels, wherever you are in your comedy journey. I think Plausible has something for you because we provide all of the scheduling tools, the virtual stage, ticketing services that you can use at your disposal. So if you want to host and produce your own, you can do all of that. If you want to go and check out what other people are doing and attend other open mics or get booked in other shows, you can do that as well. So there's opportunities for you to do things and hone your skills in between your in-person gigs. And then if you're a comedy fan, we have even more fans on there than we do comedians. And we have, I think, nearly, I don't know, several hundred comedians. So we have way more fans on there who are looking for shows, and they can sort through the comedy directory by types of comedy topics that they're interested in or not interested in. And then they can also look through the show listings to see what speaks to them and what they want to attend. And all the shows are live in real time. So the comedians perform online for an online audience that they can see and hear. And when a fan joins, they can see and hear everybody else. And there's no one-way audio. So it's kind of like if you were in the real room and you can hear many people laughing at the same time without cutting off your punchline.
Oh, I was going to say, if you had another level that you could add and maybe you could charge them a premium, would be a heckler. You'd say, oh, I want to join as a heckler. And then you just really gig them with a charge. You're like, if you want to be a heckler, you're going to have to, that's an upsell, right?
Right. Yes, definitely.
Then they could be a little bit louder than the regular audience. And then basically you can charge them extra money.
I like that, and I could put them like up front center so everybody can see them all the time.
Or they can pick their seat, and then I'm gonna heckle from the back, you suck. Yeah. That's not a heckle. You got to charge for that. But no, I think it's a fascinating concept, and I mean, I haven't delved too far into it, but the execution so far that I've looked at is fantastic.
Thank you.
But I love things that are, what do we call them? It looks very, Norwegian, Finnish, Swedish, because it's very simple and it's very easy to navigate. I mean, it looks beautiful. Don't think simple is not elegant. It's very easy to navigate, and it looks really nice. So I think people would enjoy it. And just for the aesthetic. I mean, maybe that's not a thing for people, but when you're a shut-in, you got to go for the aesthetic of websites if you're not going to look at architecture. So.
Yeah, it's true, right? Like we gotta have something to change up our environment and make it pleasing. Yeah.
And I saw on there that it looks like you do workshops as well. So you can join workshops also to kind of hone your skills and whatnot.
Yeah, there are several comedians expressing interest in hosting classes and workshops. There's an open mic on Saturdays hosted by Barry Weisenberg, who's the king of one-liners. He's been doing comedy for like 40 years. Hard to believe because he's so young, but he's
only 43. So.
Right? Weird. How does that work? But his open mic, they do a lot of peer-to-peer feedback, so people can get in discussions about their jokes and things like that, which is really cool. Michelle Durante runs a really fun and supportive mic on Tuesday nights called Pink Flamingo Comedy, and that's always really cool. And then there's other people who do a variety that maybe only happen monthly and everything like that. And then I have one on Mondays, which is casual comedy. There's a variety of things, but yeah, I'm excited to see what people are doing.
That's interesting. Now, I have to say it from the beginning of our interview here. There's got to be some kind of 30s Jack Benny's channel or something. You got to get somebody to be up there and playing a violin and going, being a cheapskate, because that was Jack Benny was notorious for a cheapskate. Bring the Hudson around, stuff like that. I don't know. I'm trying to think of 30s comedy, but something like that, just for your heritage, right? So.
Yeah.
So now, would you say that a lot of the people on there are people that you knew through this journey, or are these all people that you've met since then?
It's a mix. There are a number of people that I've known, like, from when I was in New York. There's a lot of people that I've never met in person, that I've only met through Plausible, which is actually super cool. And there's people from a variety of countries, which I think is amazing.
So then you've got the German comic, my dog has no nose, and then you say,
what?
I say my dog has. Well, I would say it in German. I don't have it in front of me. I can't remember what the German words are. My dog has no nose, and you say,
how does he smell?
Terrible. That's from Monty Python. That was they did the German World War II German joke was that joke, but I wish I had the German. I could have said it in German. I did it once in German, but I couldn't remember the German words. But anyway, let me ask you a question. Do you have any cartoons so far?
No, not yet.
Oh my goodness!
But I see that as a possibility.
It could be the start of something right here. Look at this.
I love it. Yes.
I didn't know if you even noticed. So
I did. I didn't say anything. Isn't that funny?
You'd be surprised how few people say something.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I love it. I think it's amazing.
So, but no, this is great. I love this idea. I think it's fascinating and fun, and it really, I think you've hit upon something that is, it can only happen in the 21st century, right? So,
yeah,
this would have never ever happened before, right? This probably wouldn't even been a thought of anybody because of the way that the world has gone, and here you are doing it, plausible.com, and and I guess people should just join, right? You want them to join as fans. Yeah. If you want to learn something, join as a comedian, I suppose. And
I mean,
right?
Absolutely. Even if you're a fan, you can get a spot on an open mic and everything. But if you want to produce and host your own shows, sign up as a comedian. If you're a comedian, sign up as a comedian.
But some people don't even know, right? Maybe they're just a kid from Waukegan who's got funny parents, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah. So you can't go wrong either way. Whatever you choose, we can have fun. So all it takes is to just sign up and get started. Either way. And hopefully you'll find something that I think you'll find a lot of things that you'll like on there.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So, Leanne, you want to tell us, what's the future, right? This will be we'll round everything up here. What's the future of what you're going to do? What's next in your life? Not necessarily just plausible, but for what you're doing. You've done so much so far. You've gone all over the country, back and forth.
I know. Well, and now I'm not even in California anymore. I'm in Seattle. So,
oh my gosh.
I moved again.
That's why the umbrella joke.
Exactly. Right. Gotcha. We brought it all the way back around.
All the way back around. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the future holding for you?
Well, right now the future for me is all very plausible. We
should do a freeze frame. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I didn't freeze. I was mid-laugh. This is really where my future is right at the moment is all things plausible, because although I've launched and I have people on here, I still feel like I'm at a very early stage, and this is just the very beginning, and there's a lot of other things I have planned for Plausible as we grow and build our community. I'm very excited about the future of it all. And I'm also, what I love seeing, and more to be revealed, but like what comedians are doing on Plausible, how are they using it? How creative can they be? And what are they coming up with? And so, I don't know, there's just something about that really excites me. So over the next several years, this is my plan, right?
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And then you'll morph into the next thing, and then you're going to move down to South America. That's what I see.
Yeah,
you
pretty
haven't
much.
been down there yet. You've just been crisscrossing the U.S. So
yeah,
the girl from Waukegan. Was that
the
name of your one-woman show, The Girl from Waukegan?
No. Should have been.
Okay.
My mother would have been much happier.
Well, Leanne, thank you very much for talking to me tonight. And everybody go check out Plausible. Be a super fan and get blocked. It'll be fantastic. I mean, nothing better to do with your life than to be such a fan that even the people you admire don't want to hear from you anymore. But thank you, Leanne. This is fantastic. I wish you all the best of luck. And
Thank you.
go to Plausible and see Leanne. She's on Mondays.